Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you read through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. And it has been a tough year to cover this team, a tough year to watch this team, and a tough year to do anything with this team. And that leads us into this first news story, which has been absolutely abysmal. I would like to thank Mike Florio for probably the worst reporting in the history of reporting. I would like to thank everybody who lied, and pretty much everybody who lied about this whole Deshaun Watson situation. One of the worst things that was said over the last 2 months that I've probably ever heard from a reporter, it comes from Mike Florio when he said that if these two teams can't get the deal done, it is solely because of dysfunction, and it shows you how dysfunctional the two teams are. It has nothing to do with the 22 lawsuits, I believe, and I think it's over 20 women who have accused Deshaun Watson of sexual assault. That might have been the dumbest thing I've heard over the last 3 or 4 months. So I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we don't have to think about it or talk about it anymore on this show. And now Tua gets to, like he has been this entire year, go down the line and hopefully he can prove he's the quarterback and we don't have to talk about any rumors of another quarterback for the next 15 years. I think that's what we all want. And it's going to be tough. There are some easy games. He still has the Jets. He has the Texans. He has to play well in those games. In this Bills game, which we'll get to later, he didn't have much of a chance. And, there's a lot of issues with this team. And we're going to get into those later in the show. But, yeah, I'm glad that Deshaun wants us. To obviously, if you don't know, and again, this comes from Pro Football Members, the Dolphins will not trade for Deshaun Watson at the deadline. This video is coming out after the deadline. They didn't do anything. They didn't make any trades, which was kind of disappointing. Not too crazy, considering it is a 1-7 football team. This equals the longest losing streak we've had since 2011, I believe, or maybe 2019. I think we had. Did we have a 7-game losing streak? Some in the comment section below can let me know that. It's been a pretty rough year. What was I going to say? It is weird, though. You wouldn't want to, being a 1-7 team, you probably wouldn't expect too many trades unless you're selling, not necessarily buying. And I'm not saying that they could have gotten an offensive lineman or anything like that, but I don't know. I would have liked some kind of help, maybe a running back, somebody, I think would have something to help the offense and help Tua would have been nice. Maybe a veteran player on the defensive side of the ball, maybe some extra linebacker depth. I don't know. I was expecting just something else. And obviously the Dolphins didn't do much. And honestly, what I really wanted was something for Tua because, this offense has not been great from a play calling standpoint and from a talent standpoint so far this season. Which leads us into the other news stories. I forgot. Oh, this is something that was brought up, and I want to bring this up because I think it's important. In the press conferences after the Bills game, when Brian and I believe Josh Boyer were asked about what made this defensive performance so different from what we've seen from the rest of the year, because the defense played so well for pretty much the entire game. They said something very interesting to me where they said we got back to some of the calls that we called last year, which brings up an interesting thought in why they didn't do that the rest of the season. I don't understand. I'd have to go back and watch this game to really break down exactly what they did differently. I think they played a little bit more coverage. They were a little bit more conservative on earlier downs. The tackling was fantastic. But when it came to crucial 3rd and 4th downs, they were really aggressive, which I liked. And that's something that we've really been missing this year. I don't know if it's because they thought the front 7 would be better, and I've brought this up before. Maybe that's why they haven't blitzed as much. But in this game, they blitzed on pretty much every meaningful down. I mean, even that 4th down that was intentional grounding that, the Bills wanted the offside call on, we blitzed. Pretty much every 3rd down. There was a couple in the second half we didn't blitz on 3rd and super long. We were super conservative. We rushed 3 about I think on 2 crucial 3rd downs, and they picked it up, unfortunately. But pretty much every other one, we were pretty aggressive. So we were aggressive in critical spots. We played coverage on early downs. Our front 7 did a decent job at stopping the run. Even we played with some 2 safeties back. And we did a good job tackling. And I thought that was pretty much the only bright spot of this game. It was good to see the defense play a really good offense and play really well for pretty much the entire game. I think that was reassuring. Hopefully they finish strong, coming off a strong performance against the Bills, one of the better offenses in the NFL. And hopefully they can keep that up. And I want to see more blitzing. I want to see more aggressiveness. There's really nothing to lose for the rest of the year. And it would be nice to finish the year strong. I think for us Dolphins fans, it would be nice to see, what was supposed to be the strongest unit of the year act like it. And they acted like it in this game. And the play calling I thought was great. I think Byron Jones continues to have the best year out of anybody in the secondary. He's having a great year. For some reason, Stephon Diggs has X's number. For some reason, X always lets Stephon Diggs inside of him on a consistent basis every time we play the Bills since he's been here. But other than that, I thought the defense was pretty awesome, and I liked the play calling. I wish we were a little bit more aggressive on some of those second half third and longs. But yeah, I say all this to say, I thought it was interesting that they said that they kind of went back to the stuff that they did last year. And I'm like, well, why didn't we do that the rest of the year? It just didn't make a lot of sense. If we played like that against the Colts, if we played like that against some other teams, I think we would have won those games, or at least had a better performance defensively. And it's nice to see it here, though. Hopefully that, it just makes you wonder why they didn't do it earlier. I don't understand. And this is the last news story. This is a topic that I want to talk about. Obviously, Brian Flores is on the hot seat, and I wanted to bring up this topic of what is exactly wrong with this team. And I want to bring this topic up, and I think it's Brian Flores. If he finishes the year strong, hopefully, hopefully things turn around for him. He is a good coach. I love his defensive mindset, and the game plans, for the most part, have been really good this year. I wish we were a little bit more aggressive like we were against the Bills on crucial downs, and I'm glad that we kind of went back to some of the old stuff. But for the most part, he's had some really good game plans this year defensively. I like his defense. I like the way he built the defense. I think there are still things to really like about him. But I say this on to say, if he doesn't finish the year strong, I don't know what Stephen Ross is going to do. And it brings up a great point that I don't think a lot of people have discussed. What will the Dolphins do if that happens? And I was thinking about this the last week, and I think it's just something for Dolphins fans to think about. If things still continue to go bad, what will they do? And if they do fire Brian Flores, who are they going to replace him with? Now, Chris Greer, if they fire him, which I think that's pretty much a lock at this point, I don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know who they would replace him with. But Brian, there's one name that comes to mind, and they're going to have a lot of competition for him, and that's Eric Bieniemy, who I think fits Tua's skill set really well. And from everything we've heard around the league, he's a great leader. And he's for some reason not become a head coach yet, and that's probably due to the fact that he is kind of overshadowed by Andy Reid. And Andy Reid's coaching tree is really successful, which is another plus to that, other than Matt Nagy. But it's a name to think about, I think, when you're a Dolphins fan. I think, a lot of people have kind of, even if the Dolphins did have to restart, and maybe do more of a soft reboot than a full teardown, because I think there's more talent on this, especially defensively. I think there's a lot to like there. But if they do move on from Brian and Chris as a package deal, I think Eric Bieniemy is the perfect choice. I think what he did with that, he was around Andy Reid. They have a great West Coast offense. I think he could use Gesicki really well and Waddle really well. And Tua, he knows how to design a really, really good quick pass game. When he was around Alex Smith and Andy Reid, that's, more of what their offense was, and they were super successful with that. And he's an offensive-minded coach, and I think he would help Tua out a lot. And I think Tua is still a talented player. Hopefully he continues to show that this year. But I think he would be a great move, and a great move in the right direction. it would be a great move and a great move in the right direction for the organization. If they were able to get him, he's going to be highly sought after. But if they were able to land him, they have a ton of cap space, and this year there's a lot of options this team could go in the near future. And I do not think the right thing to do is to just restart. I think there's a couple things that need to be fixed, mainly on the offensive side of the ball, and definitely up front. And one of the few biggest flaws of Chris Grier is his lack of acquiring veteran talent to this team. I think has been pretty bad on both sides of the ball. This team had a lot of opportunities to go get veteran talent at that offensive line spot, and they didn't do it. They couldn't execute. They could have gotten David Andrews. They missed out on him. They couldn't have gotten Joe Thuney. They missed out on him. Orlando Brown was up for trade. They missed out on him. Trent Williams was up for trade. They missed out on him. There's a multitude of... Rodney Hudson was traded to the Cardinals. They missed out on him. There were so many... I think Shaq Mason, who was traded to the Texans, they missed out on him. There was a lot of things that they could have done to get offensive line help here, and they didn't do it. You have a young quarterback. I don't know why that they just... I don't understand what they were thinking with that one. You can't just have an all-rookie young offensive line, which is what they've pretty much been dealing with other than Jesse Davis for the last 2 years, to his whole career. It's just not... It wasn't a good idea, and it didn't work, and we're suffering the consequences of that right now. And I don't even have to mention the running back situation. That's a whole issue in and of itself. There's just no talent there. I like Myles Gaskin as a 2, but he is not a high-end runner, and we lack a lot of size and physicality at that position big time. And Malcolm Brown was not the answer for that, and I think we all know that. But yeah, there's a lot of things that the Dolphins have to figure out. Chris Grier, and again, I think... moving on from what they'll do without Brian, I think that's Chris's just biggest fault was acquiring veteran talent. I think is probably the thing that I have, and surrounding Tua with veteran talent. I think if I could pick out one thing I wish he would have done better, and I know people are going to bring up the draft. His drafts haven't been that bad. People kind of overstate it's a little exaggerated of how bad they've actually been. I don't think they've been that bad. You're not going to hit on all of your first-round picks. That's just how it is. But I think he just missed a lot of opportunities with that, and especially with a young quarterback. He could have done a better job of infusing, again, that offense with veteran talent. And they focused a lot, in terms of their big free agency fishes, a lot of them came on defense. And especially some of their mid-tier, mid-end contracts, like Ogba's a good example. Those were on defense as well, and Kyle Van Noy. They really never did that on the offensive side of the ball for whatever reason. And, they did invest a lot of draft capital in there. I think Eichenberg is a hit. I think he's going to be a good player. But they could have done a better job of helping Tua out early in his career. And we're kind of seeing the faults of that now. I think that's Chris Grier's biggest fault. Moving on from that, and let me know what you guys think about those options. I don't know what they would do at GM, but I think at head coach, I think Eric Bieniemy would be the wisest decision if the Dolphins were to move on from Brian Flores. I think that would help Tua's career out a lot. I think what his system does fits Tua's skill set. And I think there's some personnel offensively at the skill positions that fit that. They just need to go out and get a running back and add a couple more players to the offensive line. Austin Jackson needs to be moved on from. I think we can all agree on that. He had another terrible game, and they need to find a center. And hopefully they can do that in the offseason. And a tackle. I think it's time to move on from Jesse Davis as well. Even though I like Jesse, I think he's a decent player. But I think those are the 3 positions and running back that are the biggest needs on this team. So, we lost to the Bills. Everybody knows that. Defensively, I think we played really well. I thought Duke Riley came in and played great in Jerome Baker's absence. I don't want to spend too much time on this game. I think the reason and the biggest differences between these two teams is the Dolphins cannot handle the Bills' front seven. They haven't been able to handle them for a while now, and that hasn't changed this year. They just can't handle their front seven. And some of the offensive, and again, other than that, and I think everybody knows that, the other flaw of this game, because I think defensively, they're one player away, and not even that, because they played well enough defensively to win on the road. The offense just had way too many mistakes. Not only can the Dolphins not handle the Bills' front seven, and that was clear between the play calling and just the overall play of it. I mean, they couldn't run the ball, and their pass protection was super inconsistent in this game. And you have to beat the Bills, you have to drag one of those safeties in the box. They cannot both play deep the entire game. And the Dolphins weren't able to do that. And they just dropped a ton of people back in zone coverage. And when they did blitz, we couldn't pick it up. And they didn't respect the run game. And they haven't for the last 6 years, or not even 6 years, however long Brian Flores has been here, they haven't respected it. And they just played too deep back, and it's pretty much a game. They just get too much pressure with their front four, they wreak way too much havoc with it. And I think that's the biggest gap between the two teams is the offensive line versus their defensive line. I think it's very clear. And the other thing that takes me off about this game, watching it, made me sick to my stomach, was the offensive play calling was really weird in this game. Jason Taylor brought up, why are you throwing a screen when the game is already over? That didn't make any sense. If you're going to fall on your sword, at least call something down the field. Not to mention the fact that, there was a lot of crucial... The 3rd and 2, where they ran the ball right into the teeth of the Bills' defense when they saw a blitz coming is beyond me, okay? I don't understand that call at all. The only way that this team was going to win this game is on Tua's arm, if offensively. And they had a chance to do that if it wasn't for a stupid fumble and terrible play calling and just missed opportunities all the way around. I like what I've seen from Tua this year. I think, and I hope we continue to see it. I know his stats in this game weren't good, but the other team was better in every way. And I know a lot of people want to bring up his arm strength, and that being an issue. I don't care, and you've seen this with Patrick Mahomes, when teams can just drop their entire defense in coverage and just allow their front four to just wreck the game. And not to mention the fact, Milano and Edmonds are no slouches at linebacker. They don't have to switch their guys out and get smaller against us, ever. They're just a good defense. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. We've seen, and my point is we've seen really good quarterbacks struggle against those looks. And it's hard to go against that. And Tua's lack of arm strength. I don't understand. If Tua had I don't know, pick Josh Allen. If Tua had Josh Allen's arm in this game, we would still lose. I don't think the play calling would have been different. People want to point that out. I think, honest to God, and I do mean this, the ineptitude I think it's a mixture of both. The ineptitude of this offensive play calling at times, and the offensive line. Trust me, okay, Tua can throw a go ball. Tua can throw a deep post. Tua can throw those down the field throws. Maybe he can't whip in an out route like you would want him to, or some of those things. But his arm strength is not, like, I don't know how to, gauge this, really. It's not, below a Drew Brees or Chad Pennington. I think it's better. He definitely has a better arm than Chad Pennington did. And he definitely has an equal to or a little bit lower than Drew Brees. I think he has just enough. His arm strength is just fine. He's made a lot of, go back to the Cardinals game. That 3rd down pass to Devontae Parker against Patrick Peterson. He has made tight window throws before. People act like he's never done it before. He's done it a few times, and it's not his fault. Not everything is his fault. And I don't want to sound like Tua. I don't know what I don't know. People are like, well, you're just defending Tua and all this other stuff, but I don't know what else to tell you guys. I mean, this offense is just not good. It's just not good, and he is having to kind of clean up a lot of those areas. It's not like he's leaning on a run game. They pass over 70% of the time. Okay, so it's all on him to do it all, and they ran into a better team. Their defense is really well coached. Our front cannot handle their front. and that's it. I mean, they just don't have to respect the run at all. And when that happens, and any defense makes you one-dimensional, it's easy at that point. And this offense is one-dimensional. So I'm actually very impressed for what Tua has been able to do, passing over 70% of the... He's had no run game this year at all, and no consistency. And they have no playmakers in the backfield at all. And it's frustrating. And again, some of this play calling has just been abysmal. And people wonder why we can't go down the field. And it's not just because the play calling, we have taken shots in pretty much every game that we've played in. Nobody respects the run game. How are we going to get anything down the field when everything is a pass? Nothing. How do people expect that to happen? We have no play action game at all. Look at every shot play in the NFL. It's all off play action. Like I would say 80%, maybe even higher than that. All of it's off play action. So I don't understand what our Dolphins fans want from this offense. They can't run, dude. People don't even have to load the box against us, dude. It's a joke. Our offensive line is a joke. Okay, they can literally play too deep the entire game to stop our run. It doesn't matter. Between Austin Jackson missing blocks and holding all the time, I don't know how in the world this offensive line, like, it's never... And, it's hilarious to me that Omar Kelly people, like, tweet that, oh, this offensive line can run block. You just gotta run it. No, they can't. What are you talking about, dude? That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Dude, they lack physicality. They can't do it. They just cannot run block. Not to mention the fact that they don't have good running backs. So it's just a bad I mean, they have one tight end that run block. Well, I would say two tight ends that run block at a decent level. Their offensive line is just... I mean, I don't know what else to say about the offensive line other than it's just been... it's gotten better, but Austin Jackson just continues to be an absolute waste, okay? And I don't even understand why he's still playing. Obviously they're not happy with the way he's played because they moved him inside. They need to put someone else in there, dude. Solomon Kinley's still on the roster. Put him in, okay? Put anyone else in other than Austin Jackson. I'm sick and tired. I've seen enough. I've been patient with him. But every game, he continues to play awful. Just absolutely terrible. So that's pretty much it. All I have to say about this Bills game. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than that. I don't know what people expect from him. He's not Superman. He cannot teleport a football to the end zone. I don't get it. It just the Bills are better, the Dolphins are worse, and that is what happened in this game, especially offensively. Defensively, it sucks that they played that good. Such a good game plan went to waste because this offense is so inept. And that's basically what happened. And hopefully it continues to go in the right direction. The Dolphins need new life in that offensive room, clearly. With this RPO bullcrap, he can go beyond that. And that is not all he did at Alabama either. And he had a good run game at Alabama. Look at all the deep throws he had at Alabama. He needs a run game, just like any other quarterback, okay? He needs some kind of a threat in the backfield. And I love how people like Chris Sims are so two-faced when it comes to this kind of stuff. And it's true. When Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or any of these big names quarterback plays bad, what does he say? They don't have help. You can't just throw to Devontae Adams all the time. This guy needs more weapons. This guy needs better play calling. Well, why can't the same thing be said for Tua? I don't understand that. It's really weird how people will pick and choose certain things to say about a quarterback depending on if they like him or not, or what their opinion was either come out of the draft or what their opinion is in general of the player. It's very odd. And Tua has one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL right now. And it's just disgusting to watch. I mean, this team's been one-dimensional for the last 3 years, and you would think, and again, we just talked about Chris Greer messing it up. He just didn't know, he never fixed it. And, it continues. And it doesn't, the whole thing is jacked up, dude. Hopefully Tua, I think, excuse me, I hope Tua can continue to play like he did against the Falcons and the Jaguars, and he did some nice things in this game too. But I think that's the only real thing to. And I hope the defense. I think those are the two things I'm looking forward to. I hope the defense can continue this trend in the right direction, and I hope the offense, and not really just the offense, but just Tua can continue to trend in the right direction. And thank God we don't have to talk about Deshaun Watson anymore. This first question, let's get into the fan Q&A where we answer Dolphins fans' questions, comes from SM. He says, we are in what they call the perfect storm. The GM and coach want to keep their job, and the owner wants Watson. So, I guess, not to disappoint you, SM, but, it did not happen. This next question comes from TR3MC. He says, hey, Siags, I was wondering if we were missing Lawson, Van Noy, and McCain on defense. Besides their skill sets, sometimes players can create better teamship and leadership that it looks like we're missing on both sides of the ball, especially defense. Maybe we are missing a little more veteran players on the. I don't know. I don't think we missed Bobby McCain. Bobby McCain was one of the weak parts of our defense last year. I think our safeties are. I like our young safeties, and it's kind of a weird. And I don't want to say it to sound mean because nobody wants to get. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But it is a blessing in disguise that McCourty got hurt because these safeties can get more playing time. And I think Brandon Jones and Holland are more than capable of playing an entire game at a high level. So, and we saw that in this game. Brandon Jones was had a big impact on this game. I thought Holland played pretty good. Are they missing Lawson and Van Noy? Maybe they're missing Van Noy. I think Van Noy, maybe they missed a little bit of his run defense. His versatility and coverage, because Van Ginkel's kind of taken that role of Van Noy, and we've seen in coverage Van Ginkel is awful. And I think that's kind of where they miss Van Noy, I think, is that dual Swiss Army knife element that he brought to the defense. That Van Ginkel is not good in cut. He's a good pass rusher, but he does not fit in that Kyle Van Noy role. And, turning back the clock, you kind of wish the Dolphins might have made a bigger play for Micah Parsons or someone like that to fit Kyle Van Noy's role, because I think that's something they're going to have to address in the offseason. This next question comes from Maurice Williams. He says, hey, Skaggs, if Coach Flo Greer get let go after the end of the season, which GM-coach combo would you recommend? I think Eric Bieniemy, I keep saying the enemy, like he's a villain in a DC comic book, but I would say him is definitely my first choice as head coach. I think he would do a fantastic job. And I think not defensively, as for a GM, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, there's no one I can really think of right now. Like Louis Riddick and those guys, like the media members, like no. That's a big no for me. Chris Sims, I don't know. There's not that many names out there, but head coach for sure, Eric Bieniemy. This next question comes from Eric. He says, other than all the Tua rumors and Deshaun trade stuff, which moves would you like to see to this roster by the trade deadline? Well, unfortunately, the trade deadline is coming past, but I would have loved to have seen them add a running back or like Marlon Mack or an offensive lineman. I think that would have been pretty nice, but they didn't do that. Honestly, I just would have, if any kind of a guard to replace Austin Jackson would have been nice. This next question comes from Casey Fanatic. He says, I heard it said we need 2 offensive tackles and 2 linebackers to fix our team. Do you agree? No, not with the tackles. I like Eichenberg. Maybe you address Jesse Davis. You don't have to, but they definitely need to address the guard position. Robert Hunt can stay, of course. He's a good player, but they need to get rid of Austin Jackson. And again, they need to get a center. I think those are the 2 most important things on the offensive line. They need to get a guard and a center. And they could have had another one, Corey Linsley. And, David Andrews was the biggest miss because they had him. They just didn't want to pay. They didn't want to overpay for him. And guess who's reaping the benefits of that? New England. They have a good offensive line yet again. And the Dolphins could have pickpocketed 2 guys from that offensive line this year, and they didn't do it. All right, what was the first... So to answer your question, Casey, I I think one linebacker to fix the Van Noy situation is a huge need. And I would say, and what I mean is the Van Ginkel situation, but to replace what Van Noy kind of left that void. And I would say center and guard are the most important thing. Because Jesse Davis can play that position at a pretty good level. Not a great level, but a pretty good level. And Eichenberg is a good player who's going to continue to get better. But they got to fix the interior. This next question comes from SM. He says, do you get physically ill watching Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase, and Kyle Pitts tear up the NFL? No, I like Jaylen Waddle. I think he's a good player. He's going to be even a great player, to be honest with you. I think he's a fantastic player. I think it does kind of make me a little bad with the Micah Parsons situation. That one kind of takes me off a little bit because of, I think he would have been perfect in this defense. But the Dolphins needed offensive help. And Jaylen Waddle will be a great Dolphin for many years to come. He needs Tua and Waddle and Gesicki and a lot of the skill position players just don't get a shot. If this team had any kind of like a mid-tier run game, like a mid-level 15 through 18 run attack, this offense would be way better. And it's awful. I mean, they have to throw to, and why they throw so many, and I've said this before, is, why they dink and dunk all the time, is because they don't have a run game. So they have to kind of simulate that with the run, and, maybe that's why they're so heavy on the RPOs, not just because of the Alabama thing, but to give Tua that option to check out of a mid-play, because the run game is just god-awful. This next question comes from Chris. He says, "Hey Skaggs, is it that Tua just doesn't have very good arm strength, or the play calling doesn't write up many plays to throw the deep ball? Amidst all of futility, that's one thing I didn't even see the Dolphins attempt, let alone execute on. We are terrible at running the ball because other teams know we are hardly ever willing to throw it. Your thoughts?" I think the reason we don't go down the field, and I've said this, is because we can't run the ball. So, we're throwing into a lot of too deep looks. We're getting into a lot of 3rd and 6s and 3rd and 8s a lot of the time. And you got to full defenses. You got to have, the run game is a part of offense. So you have to have that to be a successful offense. And you can't be a bottom of the league run game and be successful. We saw last year that we probably would have made the playoffs if we had any kind of run game at a consistent level. And this year, it's just gotten even worse. And it sucks to say that because it's like, how do we not improve on that in the last 2 years? And, that obviously goes on Chris Greer's plate. But I think a lot of the deep ball stuff and the complaints about Tua and not going down the field a lot is because, if you look at the best deep ball teams in the NFL, especially right now, Tennessee is one of them. They've had, obviously one of the best run games in the NFL. Seattle is the only one I can really think of that doesn't have any kind of run game, really. But they do have a decent run game. It's not bottom of the league. You could point out Kansas City, but Kansas City's had an okay run game. Green Bay has a great run game. Basically, all the great down the field offenses have a run game. The Bengals have Joe Mixon. Samaje Perine's had a really good year for them. So I think people want to blame, we can't go down the field because Tua can't throw down the field. No, we can't go down the field because, 1, we can't block, and 2, we have no run game. That's why we can't go down the field. So to answer your question, Chris, with a Z, I think that's really the main issues. This next question comes from Armando. He says, "Hi Skaggs, I love your show. Thank you." He says, if Chris and Brian get fired, would they change their strategy of adding veterans in their roster through free agency? That combination gave them success. I hope so. I hope if they do move on from those two, that they get someone in here and I know this is going to sound weird, that this team is only a few, and I know this sounds weird. This roster is not as bad as it's playing, and I can honest to God say that. They just need a few things offensively and like one thing defensively, and some better play calling, and I feel like they're headed in that, and I think they can have a successful year, and they have a ton of cap space. They can bring in what they need. If I got a head coach in here and a GM in here, I'd be like, listen, we have it. It's there. We just need to add a few more things to it, and we can with all the resources that we have. So I think I would want someone who doesn't want to come in and tear it all down. This next question comes from Steve. He says, can't blame this one on the defense after they held Buffalo to 10 points the first 3 quarters of the game. I keep hearing people say Tua isn't the reason we're losing. Well, guess what? Again, this question comes from Steve, if I didn't say that. He's part of the reason we're not winning. Watson is going to win these games. Even Ryan Fitzpatrick probably wins most of these games. Maybe 2 years from now, Tua is a star quarterback, but I'm getting tired of all these excuses being made for his inability to close out drives and put up points on the board. Either you hot it out or you don't right now. Tua isn't even close. My argument against that would be he threw 4 touchdowns and got the lead back in the fourth quarter against a bad team in Atlanta, and the Dolphins still couldn't win that game. He did the same thing against Jacksonville, and they couldn't hold a lead, and the Dolphins still couldn't win that game because of bad coaching decisions. So it's more than the quarterback. I don't want to sound like a Tua apologist. I think some of his flaws. I mean, if we want to talk about his negatives, I think the biggest negative of Tua is his size. I think that's it. I mean, other than his arm strength, I think is good enough. I don't think it's bad, and I think what I would like Tua to if he was just a few inches taller and maybe a little bit bigger in terms of his body. But other than that, I like the way he plays the game. And I think this just team isn't playing well right now, especially offensively. And defensively, we've been up and down all year. It was nice to see us get back to that. And the thing that I have hope with the defense is, Van Ginkel was in coverage a lot less this game. And the fact that they gave a reason for why they think the defense played better, but it was like we kind of went back to some of the stuff we did in 2020, which I think was really telling. But to answer your question, Ryan Fitzpatrick did not beat the Bills. We still would have gotten swept. And Deshaun Watson, we still would have lost to Buffalo, and we still probably both times. This next question comes from SM. He says, Skaggs, I know you talk a point spread about the line. I don't talk about betting. Sorry, SM. This next question comes from Toonstone. He said, what is happening to our team? I think we've kind of discussed that throughout the show. This next question comes from Mark. He says, tell me what went wrong. In my opinion, I have my opinion, but you tell me what went wrong today. Defense showed up, but when we can't score, eventually they get tired. Offensive line played much better except for a few plays, which ended badly. So on those plays, you can put it on them. The rest, well, you tell me. Well, I think the offensive line didn't do, I don't know. The pass rush wasn't, they still got a lot of pressure on Tua. They hit him a few times. I don't think the offensive line played incredible, but we couldn't run the ball. We were just one-dimensional. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the offensive line statement. I thought Austin Jackson had another really bad game. Ed Oliver ate him up a lot. And I would say the biggest thing is just the one-dimensional element of this offense continues to hurt it. This next question comes from Mythical Space Child, which every time I say it, he says, I don't know. He was talking about how Buffalo basically, I don't know, didn't try, I guess. I don't know what he's trying to say there. But yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, there's not much else to say. It sucks to be talking about the off season 8 games into the season. It breaks your heart as a Dolphins fan. I mean, it really does. It's demoralizing because we thought we were coming into this year with a good team, a good coach, a young up and coming quarterback, and some of those things have come true. I think Tua has shown some good things, and yeah. Things have just kind of regressed in a lot of different areas, unfortunately. And again, the whole statement with the defense is interesting, and it makes me kind of mad. The other things that make me kind of mad that I'm sick and tired of is the people talking about how Charlie Fry is a genius. Clearly, he's not. When he was given less control, the offense played better. I don't think that's a coincidence. And yeah, I think those are the things. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about Deshaun Watson. At least we don't have to hear about that anymore. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about stuff that's blatantly not true about this team. I cover this team every week. I read everything to be, and honestly, I tend, and this is why I knew Deshaun Watson was going to come in here, is because of what the beat writers were saying. Everything that they were saying when it comes to, oh, he's coming, was from Houston. They were quoting Houston. And I think that's a good way to kind of gauge where the team is and what's actually going on, is to listen to the beat writers. And they say completely different things than what the national media has to say about this team. And I think that's really weird, and I really wish someone would get to the bottom of it. Either it's negligence of reporting, and it's just laziness. I don't know what it is, but clearly the sources coming from the national media are not credible at all. And I hope what Dolphins fans take away from this Deshaun Watson thing is not to listen to some of those talking heads that are complete morons. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say about this, and it sucks. And again, it sucks, man. I mean, it makes me feel sad every time I think about it. But let me know what you guys think down. I know some of you are like, forget Tua, his arm sucks, and that's fine. You can have that opinion. But I would like to know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.